Welcome to Fix My Deck, episode 18. Today we're going to be discussing a Brimaz, Blight of the Oreskos deck. Brimaz is Orzhov colored, 4 mana, has whenever you cast a Phyrexian creature or artifact creature spell, incubate X, where X is that spell's mana value, and also has at the beginning of each end step, if a Phyrexian died under your control this turn, proliferate. The player who filled out this Fix My Deck form said that they want to generate incubate tokens and go for a beatdown strategy, which I'm definitely in favor of. I like more beatdown in EDH, and they want a little bit of a mix of reviving Phyrexians from the graveyard to the battlefield or recycling from the graveyard. And the issues they're facing are it's too slow, it doesn't work, and they say it feels like they might need a plan B if Brimaz isn't out. And even with Brimaz out, they need a way to generate more tokens, proliferate more, and maybe be more aggressive. They have a budget under $50, but they already have Glistening Sphere and a Chroma's Will. So we will definitely add in a Chroma's Will for the beatdown strategy. I'm just going to put that in right now because I love that card.
Yeah, I am a big fan of decks that are trying to be in the, bracket 3-ish power zone, and because you get to really play with a theme and kind of be single-minded about it. And I think this is a great opportunity to focus this deck on doing the one thing it's really good at, which is play in Phyrexians.
Yeah, I think overall what we want to do with this deck is we want to find the direction we want to take this deck in is we actually want to drop the artifact creatures and just go all in on Phyrexians. And I think just going all in on Phyrexians is really going to help us get a lot more value out of our cards and make for some really fun plays. So, in fact, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to drop the non-Phyrexians. So we'll drop Alloy Mirror, we'll drop Angel of the Ruins, which, to be clear, is a card that I love in my Angels deck. We'll drop. Oh, Aaron is a Phyrexian.
Brass Herald, Burnished Heart, Grave Shifter, Lochiel, Clockwork Scholar, Meteor Golem, Mirror Entity.
Well, Mirror Entity is a Phyrexian.
I don't like cheating with Changeling if I'm leaning all into a typal strategy.
Yeah, I don't normally like the cheating aspect of using Changeling, but Mirror Entity can be a really important one because of its ability to increase the base power and toughness.
Okay, and I guess that's
Yeah.
really strong with the tokens, the incubate tokens.
Yeah, exactly. This can be a pretty important piece for just that factor.
Ornithopter of Paradise and Solemn Simulacrum.
Palladium Mirror. Oh, that one's a little bit sad, but yeah, we'll
Oh,
drop
Palladium
him.
Mirror, yeah.
Since we're speaking about going all in on the Phyrexian theme, I want to immediately add one of my favorite cards in the game after Chroma's Will, which is Folk Hero, which says commander creatures you own have, whenever you cast a spell that shares a creature type with this creature, draw a card. This ability triggers only once a turn, and this is pretty strong card draw in these sorts of creature themed decks. On top of that, there's probably some other cards we want to cut. I think some of
Let,
these.
well, let's start with the creatures, because I think there's a few creatures that are less potent or not necessarily worth the inclusion. So I think Attentive Skywarden is one.
Yeah, that card, very cool art. Like we actually said in the last video, because this was being run in the last video, which was also kind of a Phyrexian deck. But this is just not strong enough for EDH.
I'd also cut the Banalish Sleeper.
Really?
I think it's 3 is a lot for this effect. I guess that's like the
Well,
standard.
three's no different than
for
Fleshbag Marauder. It's just a black and a white and a colorless, so it's just a little bit more
Yeah.
intense color.
Okay,
So
let's keep that.
yeah.
And Norn's Inquisitor, I am not in love with. It's not as good as it sounds, because like in order to get the +1/+1 counter, you have to flip the incubate token. And so it's not that impactful.
Yeah, I'd be more convinced if this said whenever a permanent you control transforms into Phyrexian, put a 1/1 counter on each Phyrexian you control. I would totally run this, but just 1/1/1 counter in EDH is a little bit too weak. Even if you're transforming multiple of these things, even if you transform 5 things, just making each one of them 1/1 bigger is not a big enough play for EDH, and we're going to put in some more powerful creatures. This
I would.
card, this is also an example of why it's good to stick to a theme, because this card, if we weren't going all in on Phyrexians, it would be easier for us to get screwed by this card, but because we're going to increase our Phyrexian creature count, we won't end up getting screwed by our own Phyrexian stacks card.
I would also drop the Phyrexian missionary. I think there are much stronger ways to recur cards on creatures, even that are Phyrexians.
Yeah, we're gonna put in some stronger creature recursion than this.
The last one I'd cut for Phyrexians is the Vulpine Harvester, which has really neat art, but we're not on a artifact. There's not enough artifact creatures to really warrant that ability.
Well, it's any artifact. It's not just creatures.
Sure, but the deck only has 3 artifacts right now, and it's not like we're on a sacrificing artifact strategy, other than sacrificing the incubate tokens.
And you don't think we're gonna add in enough more artifacts?
Not enough that I mean, if we do, we can add this back in, but right now I'm not. I don't think so.
Okay. And then I think some of these cards we can cut. Some of these, 3 mana draw 2 cards is a little weak for EDH. I think we'll be able to find some better stuff.
Yeah, I guess I would cut. I like the gruesome realization because it's a modal, but I think you're right in that I would cut Read the Bones and Risky Shortcut.
I mean, Read the Bones is a pretty strong one, though.
It is.
Risky Shortcut, I'm more willing to draw. But the fact that you can scry 2 and then draw 2 is pretty strong because you get through 4 cards potentially. Like I'd rather drop Side in Blood than read the bones.
Yeah, hitting the double black on turn 2 is pretty hard because that's when you want to cast this. I would say, okay, cutting the Sign in Blood makes sense. I would definitely keep Yawgmoth's File
Yeah, that's
Offering.
cool. Let's look at our
I think all the instants are pretty good. Although I would take out your Temple is under attack.
Yeah, okay. And so these instances, instants are just good. You draw 2.
Bargain is very good because you can sacrifice an artifact like
Yeah.
the incubate tokens. I might drop the Corrupted Conviction though, because it relies on sacrificing a creature, whereas Costly Plunder and Eviscerator's Insight, you can also discard or sacrifice an artifact. And I think that having that option makes it a lot better because you can throw away a incubate token.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you wouldn't have to flip the incubate token. Yeah, let's drop that. And then so we got Bitterthorn, which is really strong, and we're going to put in more of the living weapons because the living weapons, they create a Phyrexian germ token, and that's going to help us get to our theme. Icon of Ancestry. This is a reasonable card. I've ran this in many decks. It's a good anthem that can also get you some cards. And this is also, again, the type of effect that gets so much better when you go all in on Phyrexians, because if you only have 15 Phyrexians in the deck, your odds of having a Phyrexian in the top 3 cards isn't that good. But if you have 30, then you're looking at more acceptable odds for finding a relevant creature in those top 3.
All right, let's talk about some additions. I want to start with some sorceries.
Mm-hmm.
One sorcery I think we should add is the Lich Knights or Lich Knights Lich Knights Conquest, which this to me is the kind of awesome recursion spell you want to run, because this is like you can ditch all of your tokens and or artifacts, and then get that many creatures back.
Yeah, this is the sort of thing where someone wipes the board and then you just next turn come back and sack all of your incubate tokens or maybe some mana rocks or something and get a bunch of awesome creatures back into play. You know, in EDH, we want a lot more of those. Like, we either want incremental effects that get us continuous value each turn, or we want like these haymaker plays.
I think also adding in White Sun's Twilight would be good.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's great.
And I'm tempted to drop swap this for the organic extinction, because I don't know if we need that many wrath effects, because we have Phyrexian Rebirth, Dam, Sunfall.
Yeah, I also don't like organic extinction because we're dropping the artifact creature theme and going in on Phyrexians.
I guess let's talk creatures. This is the big one. I would say the first thing we should consider is Archfiend of the Dross. I think it's a very cool card. In that, not that you're going to be really leaning into the aristocrats, but you can. Turns out losing 2 life instead of 1 is really strong.
Yeah, this has potential, especially with one of the board wipes. And it's got that oil counter liability, but we have sack outlets.
Another interesting card to run is Argentum Masticore. The Masticore card type used to be really popular back in the day, and I really like these effects, or like this style of card.
Yeah, that's strong, especially if you can use this to set yourself up for one of the mass recursion spells or something. Like you just sit there and discard something each turn and blow up your opponent's permanents along the way, and then at the end of that you just recur all those cards right back into play. Plus, protection from multicolored is often relevant in EDH.
The next card was mentioned by the submitter, Blight Titan. Totally on theme. I mean, pretty much any card that has the word Titan in it tends to be really cool. And I think this is yet another example of that.
Death Touch when enters the battlefield attacks. Mill 2, then Incubate X. Yeah, see, this is exactly what we want. This is another way to do the incubation, but it's with a Phyrexian, and it's a 6/6 Death Touch with really cool art.
Yeah. The next two are a pair. It's the Defilers, so that'd be Defiler of Faith and Defiler of Flesh. They're both Phyrexian. They do something when you cast a card of the respective color, and also they are also cost reducers.
Yeah, I didn't realize these are Phyrexians. That's really cool.
Another one is Ellis Il-Kor, Sadistic. You should just search Sadistic Pilgrim.
Yeah, I actually surprisingly know how to spell this character's name because I've thought about running a lot. Also didn't realize this is Phyrexian, and yeah, again, we're not going hard into the aristocrats theme, but having this kind of aristocrats effect is still nice.
Incremental life gain is always valuable. It's a 2/2 with Death Touch that comes in as a 2-drop. And that's, to me, the right curve.
Yeah, and Death Touch is really useful because people won't want to swing at you, and they'll swing at your opponents instead, which is kind of a double effect. You don't lose life, and your opponents lose life instead.
We have Gixian Puppeteer, which is another source of incremental life gain, and also a piece of recursion.
Yeah, this is cool. I like this card.
Next, we'll add a few classics. So we'll do Massacre Worm.
Yeah, this is what I'm really excited about. The fact that Massacre Worm is Phyrexian.
Another good one is Wormcoil Engine.
Yeah. Also really excited that this is Phyrexian.
One other I would
Oh, it's $15.
Yeah. I think you can get it a lot cheaper, though.
Oh, let's see. TCG, says 840. Star City 12.
Yeah.
So this one might be pushing the player's budget a little bit, which is under $50, but we'll still leave it in there because it's. Is this a Phyrexian?
It is. It's been eroded. It generates. It is itself a Phyrexian, and then the tokens it generates are also
All right, there we
Phyrexians.
go. Very cool.
The other one I would add is Wormcoil Larva, which was from Modern Horizons 3, which was it's a great callback to Wormcoil Engine, but it's just slightly smaller Wormcoil Engine.
Yeah, and way cheaper. I mean, to be fair, Wormcoil Engine, this is a card I would pay $10 or $15 for because it's really good, especially in EDH. Someone wipes the board and you still have the tokens out and no one else has anything. But then also this 35-cent smaller Wormcoil is cool as well.
You still got a few more Phyrexians to add to the list. So we'd have Vran, Vraan, Executioner Thane, which is a once a turn aristocrat's effect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a 2-drop. It's just useful to have that lower curve.
Yeah, and also it's like
There's
anything
also
that's a Phyrexian help makes some of the cards in this deck better. I mean, like we have Path of Ancestry, and now every time we cast something like Vran, we get to use Path of Ancestry. Or if we have Folk Hero out, it also draws us a card. So, if we stick to this Phyrexian theme, every Phyrexian can give us synergy and value with various other cards.
I'd also add in here Terror of Tawashi, which is another recursion piece.
Whenever Terror, you may pay 4. If you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's very cool.
Then let's see. We wanted to add some card draw, so I think Phyrexian Rager and Phyrexian Gargantua, while not the flashiest of creatures, they draw you cards.
Yeah, I actually like running cards like this in these typo themed decks. I have, Angels. I have one that's ETB, draw a card and gain a life, and there's another one I have like it in a different deck, and it's fine because again, it draws you a card, and if you have Folk Hero out, it could draw you 2 cards. If you have Path of Ancestry, you can scry and then draw the card.
So also add in Phyrexian Gargantua, which is the bigger version of this.
Gargantua. Yeah, draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life.
And the last on theme draw is a Scrawling Crawler. Although this card might be pushing our budget, so maybe
$8.
Maybe instead do First Sphere Gargantua.
This would be good. This is probably worth $8.
It's really popular in standard, I think, right now. So maybe it's fine to drop it. Just, I think in a while it will become a cheaper card.
Yeah,
whereas
Wormcoil
Engine is always good.
So it's not worth paying $8 now for something that will be $1 in a year. What was the other one you said?
First Sphere Gargantua.
You draw a card and you lose 1 life with Unearth. Okay.
I think we can. It's always we can always come back to it as a cut. Okay, let's go through enchantments next. I think the only cut on the enchantment side is I think Phyrexian Awakening is not cost effective enough, and I don't think I like Vigilance.
Yeah, Vigilance is pretty strong.
Okay, keep the Vigilance. Let's keep that for the Vigilance. I think this is where I think there are cards and I might change it with. Like, I think if we had an unlimited budget, we can make this deck even stronger leading into, the other Elish. Like, so you would run all the Elish Norns and all the legendary Phyrexians. But for enchantments, I think Phyrexian Arena and Phyrexian Reclamation are super on theme, and we should run both.
Yeah, Phyrexian Arena is, I will say, not one of my favorite cards because it's a little bit slow. But if you're in a play group where people aren't going to kill enchantments, then this can draw you a lot of cards.
And I think Phyrexian Arena is really good at, like, we're building for kind of the bracket 3, and this is where it shines the best.
See, I just, for me, I would often rather have another 3 mana draw 2 or something, or 4 mana draw 2 or like 3, because often in EDH, like this would be a bad card to top deck in an emergency. You'd rather top deck something that draws your cards right away. But yeah, if it comes out
Yeah.
on the right turn and it sticks out long enough, at least a couple turns, it is nice. And then we got Phyrexian Reclamation, which, yes, very thematic recursion. 1 mana. It's a good card. Oh, it is $8.
Yeah.
So that's another budget pusher. Phyrexian
Enchantments.
Scriptures could be decent.
I thought about that. I was looking at that, but it destroys all non-artifact creatures, and so
It's
that'll
not
hit
totally
most of the
asymmetric,
Phyrexians.
but neither are some of the other board wipes, and it does turn one thing into an artifact first. And then we also have some graveyard recursion.
I just don't really like wrath effects on sagas because I find that people will play around them pretty effectively.
Yeah, that's fair.
We took out some of the creature ramp, so I think we should add back in kind of the standardy ramp package. So I think that's like Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Orzhov Signet, Talisman of Hierarchy, and it's probably like between $5 and $10. Staff of Completion is super on theme and is a great 3 mana rock for this style of deck.
Yeah, Staff of Completion, that's cool on theme ad. I would definitely pay $4 or $5 for this. I mean, I would pay.
And I would rather
more.
run that over the Glistening Sphere.
I do think we should add Glistening Sphere still.
Yeah, I try not to run multiple 3 mana rocks, but I guess that would be fine. I mean, Glistening Sphere is also on theme, so yeah, let's add it.
It's on theme. I think there's 1 or 2 ways to do poison, and this player said they own it already. And it does have the ETB proliferate, which is, it's a little cool.
Works well with the incubate tokens.
We are at 107. We did mention we want to drop 42 lands is probably more than is necessary. So let's drop Evolving Wilds and
Terramorphic Expanse.
yeah. Otherwise, the rest of the lands, they look really good. This is what you would want in a budget mana base. Vault of the Archangel is cool. Path of Ancestry is cool. Karn's Bastion is cool. And they got, the Filter Land and
Yeah, I mean it's a great budget land base, and it's very easy to see where you would make improvements. Like, oh yeah, like I picked up a Godless Shrine, and then it's like, yep, totally swap out the Scoured Barrens or Silverquill Campus for your Godless Shrine.
Yeah, it's nice to see people put some thought into their man bases because it can be easy to neglect. And this player definitely did that. So we're at 105 cards. I mean, speaking of symmetric board wipes, damn. I mean, admittedly, you can just cast it as a single target.
Yeah, let's get rid of Dam.
I also think this Night's Whisper is not.
Oh, I like Night's Whisper. I think Night's Whisper is worth keeping. I would be more inclined to get rid of the Utter End.
Yes, actually, it's always hard with black-white because I always want to run all of these awesome single target removal spells, but Utter End is 4 mana.
Yeah, they're already running Rite of Oblivion, which I think is the better version of Utter End. I think it's worth ditching Victimize. I think we've added enough recursion elements.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd also cut the battle.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. I think it is somewhat on theme, and
it's very slow.
Mm-hmm. Do we want to add in any more living weapons?
Yes, maybe. I think let's look at. Okay, I mentioned it before. I think we should cut the Phyrexian Awakening because they already have Radiant Destiny in here. which is both an anthem and it's not hard to get the city's blessing, especially when you're making tokens. So I think that's how you give vigilance to all your Phyrexians.
Yeah, it makes me a little sad to cut this,
Because
but I think
incubate
you're right because we have other
4 is
ways to
pretty.
incubate stuff. We added some more. Yeah, so let's cut that one.
Living weapons wise,
Nettle
I
Sized has
really like
potential.
Batter Skull.
Yeah, Batter Skull. Is it even appearing on this list? No, but we'll just
I
add
don't
it.
think so. I think it's fallen out of favor. It used to be on in a lot of decks back in the day.
There was one time I traded for very expensive ones of these. Which one was it? Maybe the Grand Prix promo. I think I traded like a Snapcaster Mage for it.
Oh, that feels bad.
Yeah, well, like you said, this card's fallen out of favor. Yeah, I never really played anymore.
What else? So we're at 101.
Oh, Portal to Phyrexian, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, Portal to Phyrexia. I think Urza's Incubator would be great for this deck. I think there's a lot of cool improvements
Yeah,
to
Urza's
make.
Incubator would be very strong. Herald's Horn might be a good budget alternative there.
Yeah, Herald's Horn's always good.
Yeah, let's actually add in Herald's Horn because there's enough 29 creatures plus the commander, so 30, and that's can potentially draw us a card almost every 3 turns and also make our stuff cheaper. I was just reminded of.
Well, let's go back and cut 2 cards. Let's get down to 100 and see how we feel.
Okay, cutting 2
Because that would be
cards.
like it might be good to run like a Swiftfoot Boots or Lava Spur Boots, some form of like mitigation onto Brimaz.
Well, let's cut 2 cards first. Otherwise, we'll have to cut 3. Aaron.
Oh, I would cut Aaron.
Yeah, he's kind of hard to cast.
Hard to cast, and adding +1/+1 counters to creatures is kind of what you want to do, but you kind of want to be more on the proliferate.
Mm-hmm.
Let's drop the first Sphere Gargantua. I think it's just a worse version of.
Yeah, 6 mana is kind of a lot for 5/4.
Okay, so we're at 100. I could see us going to 39 land. I don't know if we need to be at 40.
We don't have that much ramp, and the man curve is not amazing.
Why don't we draw a few hands and see what it looks like?
Yeah, let's do it.
This hand looks good.
Yeah, it seems like a reasonable start. So I draw, scry 1, read the bones. Do we have a 3-drop? We have this other 3-drop card draw.
Yeah, I would bottom read the bones.
Next turn, draw. We can do this and reveal the planes, and I'd play Oreskos Signet. Next turn, draw. Planes. I'd probably play the commander.
Yeah, I think it is. This deck just wants to run its commander out as fast as possible.
I'd play the commander, and then draw. Next turn.
Oh, and then you can Progenitor Exarch for 5, which would get you 1/5/5 incubate, and then 3/2/2 incubates.
X incubate at 3x. Yeah, that's a good one. So we get quite a bit.
So we have 4 tokens total now.
Mm-hmm. We draw planes.
And now this is, yeah, I mean, this hand seems good because it's like, well, we could Talisman of Hierarchy, Archfiend, or
I'd probably
Sculpted
play the
Perfection.
Sculpted Perfection and then flip over the biggest incubator and start swinging.
Yeah.
Oh, and I actually flip over two because we can flip one over with this, and we can pay two to flip one over.
Or we could pay 2 for the Talisman of Hierarchy and keep on building our board.
Yeah, but we don't know if we'll need that mana, I guess.
Yeah. Still, I think this is doing what it's trying to do.
Yeah, it seems like a good start. Let's see. 2 lands.
I would keep this.
Bone Shredder. Yeah, we got the color fixing. Let's do it. Temple of Silence. Scry 1. I will leave that on top. And then draw it on our next turn. And then we'll play this Swamp. We'll play Vran. Draw. Plains. I think we'll play Glistening Sphere unless there's something we wanted to kill with Bone Shredder.
And I'd run out the Staff of Completion.
Yeah, but this enters tapped, and we don't need the mana this turn.
I guess I was thinking we don't have anything to proliferate.
Oh, true. Okay, yeah, let's run out the Staff of Completion. Draw.
So now we could play a tapped land and our commander.
Yeah, I like that.
Which is fine.
Boom, commander. Draw. Karn's Bastion.
And this is where like maybe it depends on the board state, because it's either you run out a big Progenitor Exarch, or you run out the Bone Shredder and then follow it up with Rowan's Grim Search at the end step. Or
yeah, either Bone Shredder and Rowan, or we Progenitor Exarch, and then the next turn we Glistening Sphere to proliferate our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that also seems like not a bad start. Let's try one more.
Yeah.
2 lands.
I would. There's no plays.
Yeah. So let's mulligan.
This I would keep.
We can't do much without black mana.
We can't do much without black mana, but you know, we at least can do something. I mean, we could also go to 6. Going 6 is fine.
I'd go to 6 because, like, if we don't draw, oh, next turn will have been black. So I would go to 6, and then
oh, this is worse. Now we have to go to 5.
Do we have to go to 5? I don't know if 5 is better.
I mean, I guess we hope we draw into a swamp and then we can play Night's Whisper.
Yeah.
I would put the Puppeteer on the bottom.
Yeah. Draw. Oof. Plains. Draw. Fuck! Draw. Plains.
Oh, this is bad.
Oh, no. Well, we just lost that game. All right, maybe going down to 5 would have been the answer. Because, yeah, I guess I forgot you draw 7 and then you lose 2. So it would have increased our odds of having a land. So that was my mistake.
Yeah.
This is good.
But this hand's good.
Swamp. Draw. Tainted Field. We don't need that.
I think Fran is better than Soulless Jailer.
What was that?
Oh, yeah. Or Talisman of
Yeah,
Hierarchy.
do that. Because then probably it's next turn we just want to play Brimaz.
I would be tempted to put the Bitterthorn in first, actually. Because I want to attack with it next turn. And then hopefully you could do... I might save Brimaz for like a turn 6 play where you could do Brimaz plus a 2-drop.
Well, also, if we're doing that, if I was going to do Bitterthorn and then wait for a turn 6 play, I'd probably make my plan to cast Phyrexian Rebirth on turn 6 and potentially blow out my
Yeah.
opponents, especially if they've cast their commanders. So, boom. So this turn we would play the Glistening Sphere and go get a land. Just get planes. And then we go to next turn, we draw, and then I'd Phyrexian Rebirth. Well, I'd swing first
Hmm.
with Bitter Thorn, and then Phyrexian Rebirth, which could potentially be a big blowout to our opponents.
Yeah. And then you have a big Phyrexian token, and then you can play Brimaz and then Bone Shredder, and that's
And
pretty
like next
sweet.
turn, we're like Brimaz. Yeah, so this is also a very good start. This feels like it's working to me.
Hmm.
I think we'll call this mission accomplished.
Yeah, I really like this deck, though. I really like decks that sit somewhere between bracket 3 and bracket 4, because that's when you get to really lean into your theme and play a lot of these cards that just don't see a lot of play.
I guess I would call this like a pretty solidly black bracket 3 deck. It would be bracket 4 if you had unlimited budget and we started adding in a lot more powerful
I mean,
cards.
like both, like all three Elish Norns, adding Mondrak, and
Well, the Elishnorns aren't
yeah,
Phyrexian. Or are they Phyrexian Praetors?
I'm pretty sure they're Phyrexian Praetors.
Yep, Phyrexian Praetor. So yeah, if we had unlimited budget and we started adding in all the best Phyrexian Praetors, Elishnorn, Shield Dread, um, you know, probably some.
Urza's Incubator.
Yeah, Urza's Incubator. That would definitely push this towards a high 3 because it could be very oppressive
Oh,
against.
Ozolith is very strong in
Oh yeah, the
this.
Ozolith would be strong. There's also the white Ozolith thing, and um, oh yeah, insatiable avarice. Actually, that would be a good one. Except it's 3 black, but that's also something where if you have more mana or more money, you have a more expensive mana base, and you could play a 3 black card.
I think Breach the Multiverse is a card you could run.
Yeah, Breach the
It's a cool
Multiverse, I would
haymaker.
absolutely run in this deck. There's a lot of ways to keep upgrading this deck, and it's really fun to have a deck that works but can get better as you get more cards.
And who knows? Maybe they will return to Phyrexia again, in which case you'll get more cards to add.
Yeah, and of course there's the MDFC cards. Apparently this is $5 at Card Kingdom now.
I can't believe Malakir Rebirth is almost $10. That's nuts.
Yeah, the demand for them is high. So yeah, that's our fix, and I think there's a lot of ways we could take this deck further with more money, but as far as what it is, it seems to be solid. It seems to be working well. So if you made it this far, like, comment, and subscribe.